I am just so over the moon. I feel like now, after 50 episodes behind us, that having you guys here are just like the pinnacle. I'm circling back around.
So
started
sweet.
out, we kind of interviewed successful people along my route.
Yeah.
Just different people. And, but now that I've got you guys here, Mr. Bougies.
We're here. Oh, I don't know if it's even legal to say Mr. Bougies. Is that legal? Are we going to get canceled? Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I've never been called that before, but thank you.
Okay,
I've been called a lot worse. Let's just say that.
Well, I think you're both Renaissance men.
Oh, thank you. I'll take
that any
Bon
day.
vivant.
Heck yeah, thank you. Bon vivant.
Take those
Oui.
any day.
Oui. Well, thank
And
you
cheers
for
to
having us
that.
here.
Yes.
How much fun are y'all? It's so good to see y'all. And it's a Saturday morning, and we're in black tie, which is because why not?
Everybody, we were talking about my old friend Welcome Wilson, pinnacle in society and especially Houston. He always carried a tuxedo and shawl and a cane and a hat and a field in the trunk of his Mercedes.
Be prepared, right?
You never know.
You never know. Always wear pack the black dress, pack the tuxedo, bring the passport because you never know where you're going to end up.
In his car every
that's
day.
pretty great. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Talking about planning ahead.
Right.
Well, and then when you plan ahead like that, things tend to transpire. They tend to happen, right? If you're ready for it.
Yeah, and if you want it to happen, you look like the most official person there.
Amen.
True.
That's right.
Put that on, get behind a piano. You got a party going.
Well, and it's always been the pinnacle of faking it till you make it. If you show up and you look like you're supposed to be a part of the party. Kristi has a great story about when she went to a funeral that she wasn't supposed to be included in, and she dressed the part. Yeah.
I don't know about any funeral crashing stories from people. I'm intrigued.
Well, when I was a reporter, a baby reporter, you remember Anna-Nicole Smith,
of course,
her husband
from Mahia, of course, yes.
Mahia's finest. She married J.Howard Marshall,
right?
And his family that were already superseded him prior to didn't really appreciate his affinity for younger,
nubile, yeah.
So I think he tried to keep because remember he had Lady Walker.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And so they made her have they made the families have two funerals. So the Koch brothers were partners with, this is how far back.
That's way back.
J.Howard Marshall was one of the funders of Koch.
Okay.
He was
KOCH.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's trillions of dollars ago.
Yes.
Literally trillions of dollars.
And
wow.
So Anna-Nicole's stepson, Pierce, he just went by Pierce, lives in Dallas. And he went and hired a lawyer
to
draft her.
Yeah.
Rusty Harden. And then I think, I can't remember who she had, and she was the famous Screw You, Rusty.
I remember that on the slide.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it was yesterday.
So the J.Howard had set her up in like Woodlands, Magnolia somewhere, and spent, 30 years ago, $2 million on this house with barns.
That went pretty far back
10
then.
acres. Right.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So they gave her $50,000 a month. Office did to maintain her. Again, this is 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it'd be like $150 today.
Sure would be.
She got her water turned off. Like, I don't know if I ever know anyone that's had their water turned off.
That's vast mismanagement.
But that takes
right?
3 or 4
I mean,
months.
Yeah.
It's not like
that's negligence.
Right, but all my power, if that goes off, I'm going to lose blueberry ice cream. I'm going to lose caviar.
Sure. Yeah.
You're
such
water.
Such a strategic thinker about that. What will I lose?
I know what
Bluebell,
will I lose?
Caviar, your beauty creams that you refrigerate,
Exactly.
lots of things,
Birkin
right?
bags,
Birkin bags,
furs. But to have your water turned off to me was just, that took 4 months.
Yes, I was going to say that would
severe.
take something to make
And
that
many
happen.
notices. So the family said, you can have your own. So she requested that the body be delivered from George Lewis to her pool in the summer. by the pool, the place he bought her in Tomball.
Wow.
And they said, no, we're under some kind of special regulation. You know, I'm sure at George lived there.
Yeah.
It was so perfect.
Oh my God.
And said, you can have something here. And then, so let's say it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, then all the CEOs, the Koch families, all the big names, Robert Mossback, all
Yeah.
then they were coming to George Lewis to
Yeah.
contribute. But
Wow.
that family couldn't be there. So I'm looking at her family and I'm thinking to myself, if I walked up and introduced myself, she's in consummate Xanax
Oh, sure.
haze.
Yeah.
So I came home. My mother was Joe Myers, Toyota, Joe Myers.
Yes.
Sure.
My mom was best friends with Maxine, his wife. And so I go to Memorial to go to their house to pick up my mom one day. She goes, honey, and it's big Memorial lots, they're like 2.5, 3 acres. You know who lives next door?
Oh my gosh.
He's J.Howard Marshall.
Wow. Wow.
You don't say. I said, do you have a Ziploc bag? She goes, yeah. And I said, give me cookies, give me bread, give me anything. Put it in here. So walk over.
You take it over like a good Southern woman does,
Yeah.
bringing food to a funeral.
Well, no, you're not dead yet.
Okay. Oh,
At this
okay.
point, so this is
Pre-funeral.
Pre-funeral.
Okay.
So I just want to get in to talk to her, to try to get a, hey, and maybe he thinks I look a little like her. I don't know.
Yeah,
He's
I can
kinda
see the
out of it.
resemblance. Sure.
So I come in to try to talk to him, and then security was too long. I just walked in the back door. So housekeeper goes, I said, oh, I'm bringing this next door for the Myers. The Myers, they don't know the.
Oh my God.
And so he seemed a little out of it. Well, so then a girlfriend of mine ran Tony's when it was.
Sure.
Well, I guess it would be Anthony's. It was Smith
Yep.
and Walensky.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Remember
Yes.
in
Yes. Sure.
Highland
Yeah.
Village?
Of course.
So she calls me and she goes, he likes to eat it between 4 and 4:30. Like people are going
Right,
to the bar.
right.
He likes to be.
The Peepaw special time.
I said, I'm on the way.
Oh my gosh.
So I come in and I've got this beautiful suit on, the hair. I sit down and I said, Mr. Marshall, I don't know if you remember me. I said, but I'm good friends with your next door neighbor. And he's got this soup in front of him and on him.
Oh
And
gosh.
it's just, a few minutes later, this hand comes over and I feel it and it's just massive. And I don't look up and I can see the fingers are like logs and they both said,
Yeah.
Mr. Marshall on in the afternoon really prefers to eat alone.
Okay.
And I'm like, blink at me if you want me to stay.
One for yes. Just do anything.
Blink,
Oh, that's so
blink.
funny.
And we were the only ones in the restaurant.
Isn't that
before the
hilarious?
afternoon.
Wow.
And so I said, I totally understand. I said, here's my number. And if you want to visit and
Right.
talk about
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
Well, so within no time, he had
Right.
passed on.
Gosh.
But so what I did was I thought, okay, I'm not going to be able to get in that avenue to that funeral.
Yeah.
I went to a
Salvation.
Buffalo Exchange.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Something else I'd never met to if it wasn't for this store. Got those kind of clothes.
Okay.
Found peel-on tattoos.
No, ma'am. No.
Blacked these teeth out. No makeup. And was completely wired when I walked in with a family and sat on the second row.
Oh, goodness.
And no one ever said a word.
And
Said
you-
press pass. They just assumed.
And you got the story.
Yeah.
I love it.
It ran on hard copy.
Oh my gosh.
She was wearing
Her wedding dress
Oh,
from when they
goodness.
got married.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And she sang Wind Beneath My Wings.
Isn't that something? Doesn't it seem like just a long time ago when all that happened? And yet it led us to the Kardashian nation.
Yes.
It's led us to all what that has wrought. It's interesting. It really is.
One of the very first reality shows ever, and you may beg to differ, but was that show Cheaters.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
sure.
Tony
Yeah.
Habib?
Uh-huh.
And it was like freebie static
That's right.
stations.
Yeah.
He would get
Yes.
like
Yep.
maybe after Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Whatever channel it was. It was infomercials if they weren't whatever. And they would do the van.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what we found. This is what we're doing. They're all in Dallas because the production getting ready for it. So then they would go to this Motel 6 and, you know, get these people out of there and embarrass them and all these things. I thought that was the wildest thing I'd ever seen. So I take that tape and I said, I want to pitch this to somebody in Hollywood that's big. And I said, I want you to come out and meet with them. So Cy Weintraub, there was former chairman of Columbia, and Barry Gordy. So I sit down with them, all up at the pool, having, you know, Hop Sing come bring us some whatever. And I said, my friend is going to be here. He is a Texan. And I said, I want you to see these. And so I put one in, and Barry's like, it's kind of grainy.
Yeah.
I said, well, I think that kind of lends to
the surveillance quality, right? Yeah.
And of course, these are two gentlemen that hadn't been in a grocery store in 30 years. They hadn't bought their, I mean, you know, they still got matching standard poodles and silver shot. You know, somebody drives around. I missed a generation. I should
Old
have
school,
called it.
yeah.
Very old school.
Yeah.
And I remember Barry looked at me and he said, that is so cute. He said, but no one is ever going to find fame. Nobody will want to watch people that aren't famous. There was no reality.
Right.
Little did he know.
Little did he know.
Yeah.
And they said it won't ever take off. Because
Look at it
people
now.
don't care about regular people.
Yeah.
The studios build the image up so much.
That's right.
Well, they don't do that.
Yeah. No, there's not the studio
There's
fallback.
no reason
right?
to do that. I would be fascinated to actually ask him that question today.
Yes.
Is he still around?
Yes, he
what
is.
do you know?
As a star
what do you
maker
think
like
of
he
this?
was
Right.
or
But
is.
30
having
years
them
later.
there,
Yeah,
and then I
it's
felt so
fascinating.
bad for Tommy. Because I was like, I still believe in you.
Yeah.
But he's like,
Interesting.
it won't ever work because none of these people are recognizable.
Well, what do y'all think about the ascension of the reality star, the just like me folks who, in theory, who are reaching these high claims and earning tremendous.
Just like you.
Well, no. But I mean, well, that's the air quotes for that. Oh, they're just like me. I can relate. I can understand what they're going through. I mean, it's kind of a way of life now. What do y'all think about that? Do you think that's going to continue?
I think the glitz and the glamour of Hollywood and the way that the stars were portrayed were so much outside of the characteristics of what their real lives were. You know, we
Right.
hear these stories about stars of the 40s and 50s who had to portray an image on screen or in the press that didn't match who they really were.
Right.
And now that those stories have sort of started coming to light, and you have to think to yourself, they had to make a self-sacrifice in order to have a certain level of career notoriety.
Sure.
In order to be them. And it didn't take away from their beauty or their talent or, you know, there's people with the it factor when they walk in the room.
Yeah.
They stop. Well, I think that the producers in these companies that have started to say, hey, let's produce a reality show in you know, Southern California or New York. There's tons of people with that it factor.
Oh,
There's tons of people who are making an impact or doing something that's significant. And I think we've all been sort of maybe disappointed by the standard celebrity that Hollywood has said this is who you should pay attention to.
Yeah, that could be.
And so for me, I think, you know, watching just some of the societies in the different areas I've lived in, Louisville and Cincinnati, up here in Texas, it's like there are people worth being invested in paying attention to all over. And so I like, you know, I don't want to glean onto the people that societies, like I'm not a Kardashian watcher, I'm not a Kardashian fan. I don't, you know, I feel a certain sadness.
If the only person I'm truly fascinated with in that group is Chris. From the neck up. Right.
Yeah, she's bright.
Bright.
I mean,
I feel like she could run a
she's
master
running a
marketing
dynasty.
class at
oh, she
Harvard.
totally could.
I
And
mean, all the
should,
kids are worth
honestly
billions. So
Yeah.
add that up. That's a pretty high level.
And she
Totally.
started, when she first got to hone her craft, was on Bruce, who was filing bankruptcy when she met him.
Yeah.
So you can't say
Yeah.
Kris Kardashian was ever a money grabber. Or
Right.
She said, I can take your career and turn it around. And that was the same thing with my friend we were talking about earlier, Buzz Aldrin.
I love Buzz.
I love Buzz.
We love Buzz.
He was
Hi, Buzz.
alcoholic. He was all these things. He said, I'd gone to space, come back.
Yeah.
And they didn't give you all the things they prepped you for. Like, oh, this knee, they measure you. He said, like every day, 10 times a week before you go out to see. And he said, oh, this knee is a 2 centimeters to, why is this going up? Or why the pressure here.
Yeah.
But nobody ever said, we're going to have psychiatrists.
Right.
or somebody to help you transition because the whole country is going to be after you asking questions.
Yeah.
And he says, I nearly dragged myself to death.
I'll bet. It's a lot of fame to come to someone who didn't ask for it,
No.
didn't want it, wasn't really qualified for it, except that he was a great, engineer, pilot, and, landed on the moon. I mean, those are huge things that I don't think anyone asked for back then.
He kicked some guy's ass. Some young guy in his 30s. He was at a book signing.
I believe that.
Oh,
in Beverly Hills.
buy that
and
completely.
He didn't go on the moon. Nobody said that's a whole.
The whole
blah, blah,
hoax
blah, blah.
thing. Yeah.
Buzz isn't a real big guy.
No, he is not.
He came across that table and just started hitting that kid who was like 30 something, and
Yeah.
Buzz is almost 90.
Great, as it should be, right? Well, that kid's not going to say that to any other astronaut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were kind of the wild about cowboys.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were.
Before.
And the last frontier
They
was
were.
space, if you think
It
about
was.
it.
So
right?
yeah, it was the frontier.
And everything old is new again. And how ironic that the big ranches, like the XIT, is coming back.
Yeah.
The 4.6s is now reestablished.
Right.
From, who started it to Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah.
And you always got to have the King Ranch. But now these new cyberspace billionaires, Jeff Bezos, Elon, and then I'm trying to think who was the face, bought all this land
Right.
Yep.
in West Texas
Yep.
in between these grand
That's right.
ranches.
Yeah, whatever's left.
And it's so
Yeah.
funny how everything old is new again, but they eventually start to center with each other.
Totally.
Well, they're not making any more land.
No.
We know that. So it's very valuable land that they're buying. And I think that speaks to the Texas spirit as well, right? If you're a Texan, if you're a native Texan, you come from pioneers.
Absolutely.
You came from people who worked the land, you came from people who profited and saw a lot of challenges as Texans and as Americans too. So doesn't surprise me one bit that these pioneers in technology and beyond are going back to more of a root-based land ownership scenario.
Absolutely.
So what do you think with everything that Elon's doing? Have y'all met him yet?
I haven't. There's been lots of rumors in Austin about him, but I have not. I have yet to meet him. I know people who have, though.
I heard he was moving
Yeah.
to the lake, like Austin.
Yep.
And I heard
Yes.
that
Yep.
he didn't.
Yeah, we hear lots of things that it changes daily.
It really does, and there are. It's just really interesting because his attention span tends to gravitate from thing to thing. So he may want something
Shorter,
one minute,
shorter, right.
and then it winds up not coming to fruition. So it's. I think that's kind of why he's just. I wouldn't say hard to pin down. That might be the wrong phrase, but there's just lots of rumors because if you're not static, it's hard to create rumors and have them stick.
Do you think that he's going to have a hard time adapting to the culture that is Texas?
I don't think so. I
No.
think he will
He's
expect
been
it.
here a while.
He's been here a while. Yeah. I mean, I say if you are industrious and you have made a name for yourself and you are helping to change the world, hopefully for the better, come on. Because come on to Texas, right? That's
Right.
kind of what Texas is about. It's a place for people to really chart their own destinies. Big fan of that.
I can't remember if it was my dear friend Nancy Rogers or Amy Phelan. Somebody had him at a dinner. Or
Probably both, and you would see it in
Yeah.
between,
Yes.
knowing those things.
Yes.
That's some dinner party.
Oh, I know.
I love them both.
And they were just saying he is so charming.
Yeah.
One-on-one.
Yeah. I don't think you get to be that level without that.
You
know?
have to be. You have to have a level of charm to get that level of success.
Yeah, and I'll
It's-
call to reference John Paul DeJoria and his
Yes.
wife Eloise, who were longtime friends, known him for 3 decades,
Stunning.
and they could not be more genuine and more real. And I mean, I considered them mentors for a long time.
Right.
And they know how to entertain, they know how to give back, and they've done the pledge with Bill Gates and all that. I mean, these are people who have made a difference in the world, could do anything they want to, and they're choosing to continue to give back. And I think that's really important.
It is. And the reason that they're such good folks is I always tell people don't pay attention to the principals, whether it's John Paul and Eloise or whoever it is. Watch the staff and see the turnover. They've had the same people working for them
same team.
for decades.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the gentleman that runs the
You know.
foundation. But he's
Jerry.
Yeah, maybe. He's reached out to me a few times.
Yeah.
And just like, he follows. He's like, hey, I love what your dog's done here.
Yeah.
This is
Right,
great. I'm,
yeah.
I'm a huge fan. And
Right.
it's a dark-haired man.
Yeah.
I can't slipping me.
How
But-
is your charity these days? How is your nonprofit?
Well, we have just hit the 8 billion with a B
Wow.
of contraband seized.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Thanks to the canines and thanks to
our
your support of the
canines.
canines.
We had one bust a few weeks ago that was $130 million.
Good grief.
And it was a cold stop
Where was that?
on I-10.
Outside
Wow.
Well, closer to like Round Top LaGrange.
Okay.
Um,
Near the old chicken
Columbus.
ranch. Okay.
Yes,
no,
right-
no good
right
by
comes from
Columbus.
there,
Okay.
But okay.
yes. And so they pulled somebody over, and thank God for license plate readers, everything else.
Right.
It can show how many times. So if they lie, where have you been? Oh, I just picked this car up from somebody, and I'm going across to Beaumont to. One of the excuses was, remember, a cheerleader competition.
That's a pretty good excuse.
Well, it was a
I
grandma,
gotta tell ya.
a mom, and a 12-year-old girl and a newborn.
Who would disbelieve that?
Right. The best,
Wow.
most badass interdiction got. He is my Superman, and I know y'all have probably seen him on my site, but
Yeah.
he's chiseled. The waist is
Yeah,
big.
sure.
He said, "You can go by me going at 120 miles an hour. Yeah, I'm doping it. I keep on going. I don't care."
Wow.
But I said, "I just went past you with, 50 gallons of raw fentanyl." And he goes, "The hell you did."
Good
He
grief.
sits out there.
Wow.
And he has a sixth sense that I just don't know. He's insisted you can teach it. He goes around trying to teach it. But it's just something, the way they lock in, if it's longer than 2.5 seconds that they've looked at me, or then they look away and then they look back, I know something's going on. So he pulls over this minivan. He separates the 3 ladies. And then the little baby is in the pumpkin carrier seat. She's 6 weeks old. So he says, "So what are you doing?" Tell her, you were speeding a little bit. But he said, "I saw how the woman, when I got up beside her and I ran the license plates, and I saw every Tuesday she was coming back across the International Bridge
Good grief.
in this car."
Oh.
He says, "Where do you live?" "Oh, well, we live in Mercedes, or but we're going to Beaumont for this cheerleader competition." So then he asks the 30-year-old daughter, where y'all going to?" I think it's Louisiana."
Oh, no.
And then the
Yeah.
15-year-old says Dallas. He said, "Well, where's your cheer pom-pom?
Yeah. Right.
Where's your gear?
Yeah.
You don't have it." Well, they said they'd have it for me when they get here."
That's something.
"What's the name of your team?" I don't know, because they're going to have it on the...
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Pulls the baby. He said, "I have a baby about this age." She pulls the baby up. The dog comes in, sniffs, flips it over. There's 18 kilos underneath the baby.
Gosh.
Wow.
Unreal. And this is like Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, no, this is every day of my life.
Happens all the time. Isn't
But
that
you understand,
incredible?
we have
Yeah.
400 departments across the
Yeah.
United States. Everybody that writes us, whether it's 4 a.m. on a Tuesday, 6:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday, or it's a Sunday morning,
Yeah.
they hit you with just the same enthusiasm. And so everybody assumes that we get part of that.
Oh, wow.
We don't.
Okay.
So we're on the take.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So why do you do this? I mean, besides being a good soul,
Because if not, it's going to infiltrate us.
I agree.
I
1,000%.
If I've removed $8 billion in contraband,
Yeah.
what the hell else is getting in?
Right. Right.
And I have no federal funding, no state funding. This is all through private donor.
That's incredible. And how old is the organization by now?
14 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember when you started it.
And what's really sad, what's truly really sad, is the faster that the message spreads about what Kristi's organization does, and now that we've branched into schools and we're putting like dogs in schools, that hospitals, can detect guns, they can detect bombs, all that. Not only is the message being spread, but the need. And so currently, I think right now in our database, we have 500 departments around the country that have submitted grant requests to us for dogs that range anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000 a piece. Because they're highly skilled, they're highly trained.
Right.
So 500 departments saying we need this tool that we don't have access to and that our departments can't afford.
Wow.
But in order to get this and fight the crime that we know we have, we need this tool.
That's incredible.
So, I mean, it's incredible to watch the amount of work and effort that Kristi goes to on a daily basis. I mean, sometimes 16 hours a day.
I believe it.
Trying to find, like, maybe this grant, maybe that foundation, maybe somebody who has funds dedicated to law enforcement or tools to protect kids will help us.
Yeah.
And so far, since being involved in this organization in the last 2.5 years, I haven't seen one check come in over $25,000 from anybody. And that's one dog.
Yeah. Right. Just one dog.
It's astonishing. And it's astonishing that there's not, like she says, anybody else doing it.
Right. I think that's interesting. And I think you doing this in Texas is really interesting as well.
But we're in 38 states.
But it found it in
and
Texas.
France, absolutely.
Right. I mean,
all the majority of our
I mean, your brain, your need that you saw to be fulfilled started in Texas. And I think that speaks to Texas and Texans too, besides yourself, about the largesse of Texans. And Rob, you see that a lot with your podcast.
Yeah, I do. And so, I admire anyone who does philanthropy like you do. And, I've gotten to have so many great conversations in addition to people like you with people all over the state. What's interesting not being from, and Liss, you can probably relate to this, not being a native Texan, the amount of philanthropy and giving that happens here, I don't think people understand it until they're in it.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. And if it does, it's
level.
in New York. And New York philanthropy is much more, they're on weeknights. They're not social. They're it's just a very different, lane of how they do philanthropy. They probably raise on par with what Texans probably raise each year, but they just go about it very differently. And the socialness really shows the heart of Texans, I think, and that they want to get to know people.
Well, and one of the things that Kristi will talk about is, that at the beginning of all this, she had already sat on the boards of so many other foundations. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you go to bed and you put your head on the pillow and it's like, but what is this foundation that I'm dedicating my time, energy, my life, my money to? What are they doing?
Yeah.
Maybe yes, it is a wonderful cause. Maybe it is the ballet and we need the arts, but on the flip side of that, we know that there are children and older, families or people who are constantly on the front line of being victims. And that needs a higher level of knowledge brought to light and just passion because, I think if you talk to anybody today, somebody has a story about somebody who's been addicted to drugs or died because they accidentally overdosed.
Totally.
I think
or that it was laced with something that they had no idea.
That's something. And kids too.
Yeah,
teenagers.
And they think, well, if they were doing drugs, it's their own fault. But it's not that simple.
Yeah.
Kids go to college and say, hey, do you have like a pill to help me study? And they hand something over. It was laced with enough fentanyl.
Right. And he's down in 20 seconds.
We just
and that's all there
is. The other day that nerd ropes, Lay's potato chips, so many things that are laced and look unsuspecting.
Yeah.
And these dogs are the only thing that give officers sometimes probable cause to search a vehicle.
Because they can smell it.
Because they can smell it at 500,000 times stronger.
Yeah, of course.
That's the only tool. There's no man or machine that can duplicate what a dog can do.
Isn't that something?
And to have that level of experience that Kristi has, she has 14 approved vendors across the country who bring these dogs in from Europe and that can train. And she doesn't give these dogs until they're about 18 months old.
Have y'all seen that they're to help rehabilitate prisoners that are also training dogs at that level? But I mean, the beautiful German Shepherds, beautiful dogs who were
beautiful labs, beautiful goldens.
Yeah.
Teach them their foundation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the prisoners had no foundation themselves.
Right, and that gives
or else sadly they wouldn't be.
self-worth.
That's right.